Yo, what's good? Let's talk more about High Elves. So this is the rest of the roster from Cavalry to Monsters. I wanted to do a second video on these because these are kind of getting fancy a little bit for the purposes of our campaign. You're more than able to get through the entire campaign that we'll be playing just using guy with shield and guy with bow. So I wanted to dedicate a video to all the other types of units you have access to and might want to experiment with. And we're going to start with the Illyrian Reavers. So the Illyrian Reavers are the early game cavalry unit of the High Elf roster. As you saw me playing with them a little bit because my army starts with one, they basically are meant to, as you might imagine, get around the enemy and smash them from behind. Hammer and anvil, we call that. They are the hammer, and a spearman will be the anvil. Not too much to say about it. I think I will take a minute to say Vanguard deployment. That's this icon here, do with an arrow, or just says right here. It means you can put them outside the green line and put them into the white line. Not all units can do that. For example, these random ass Tyrannok chariots, they can't do that. It tells me right there only Vanguard unit can do that. So if you see this or you see Vanguard deployment, it means they can go out of line. That's very useful. If I could quickly get them here, move them into that tree line, and they'll be set up to destroy anything. So, moving on. The vertical upgrade for the Illyrian Reavers are the Silver Helms. These guys just do the exact same thing, except they don't have Vanguard. Um, Same thing. You just get them around the enemy formation, you smash them into the archers, you smash them in from behind the melee. They do good work. Chariots. Chariots are kind of the difference between cavalry and chariots are subtle but important. Whereas a cavalry unit will want to sit into the fight and stab and smash or whatever the fuck for a little bit and then get out. The chariot just simply wants to drive through. They want to trample them with their horses. They want to run them over their chariots. They want to hit them with these nasty looking blades, and they want to spearman wants to smash them while they go by. Not every chariot has enough mass to go through an entire unit, but a lot of them are able to at least put some reasonable work in. I would say chariots are what I would call kind of advanced. I would honestly start with cavalry and then move on to chariots. Uh, Silver helms with shields, they're literally just silver helms better, at the cost of a little more upkeep on the campaign map. Silver helms better. It's that easy. Lion chariots of Krace. A little bit different, but ultimately same idea. They are just a direct upgrade of the Thilmar chariots. Dragon Princes are the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme. They not only are great as cavalry, performing the cavalry role of hammer and anvil, but they also can hold it down in melee for a little bit. You don't want to leave them there. That's not what they're meant to be doing. But unlike, say, the Illyrian Reavers, if you do leave them in infantry combat, they will put it down. They will do in work. They might even survive. But again, just try to avoid it if you can, as opposed to if Filmar, if you leave them in melee, they do explode. I forgot I put them on the other side of the map. Um, Next up is the horse archers. These guys, I don't really like using horse archers because any unit I like to field, I intend for them to kill things. Horse archers don't really kill things. They more so pelt the enemy. They annoy them. They make them ruin their formation. They give you an opening for your crew, for your key units to go in. Let's say there's an orc right here, we can, kind of give them a little rim job and pelt them with arrows in a circle, and eventually the orcs get pissed and start moving. Well, bam, there's a way right down for our Illyrian Reavers to go in under their artillery. Things like that. You need to be a little clever about them. Um, I think that is it for the mounted units. Those are Dragon Prince, Archers, chariots. Well, we are talking chariots. Okay, so we'll move on to the monsters now. So first up is the Great Eagle. I wouldn't really call this a monster, but for purposes of the game. Basically, flying unit, big bruiser. You send him over the enemy formations because he flies, and you get him into the artillery. You get him into the archers. Oh man, he does work. Not really a common pick for me, just because his job is done elsewhere by arguably better units. But if I have a Great Eagle in my army, or I'm feeling a little RP flavorful for one reason or another, I'm never gonna regret it. The War Lions of Krace. I do believe these are DLC, so put a little asterisk here. But these guys are extremely good, in my humble opinion. They fill up a crucial hole in the High Elf roster, which is chase down units. These guys can work like cavalry if you want them to, but they are best chasing down routing units, and make sure instead of rallying, getting, taking a breather, whatever, putting their penises together, getting back into the fight later. These guys will just run them down. They'll fucking tear their arms off. They'll make sure they get off the map. If you route some big ass infantry like a black orc and they go back, they rally, they come back, they're still black orcs on you. That still sucks. But if you route the Black Orcs and then you send the War Lions of Krace, you will never see those Black Orcs again. They're just gone. I really like the War Lions of Krace. I think they fill out a very important role in the roster. Just for brevity, these are the units that Alariel has access to. They are borrowed from the Wood Elf roster, and the roster needs to function, so they basically are just equivalent units, and there are equivalent units in the High Elf roster. But Treekin, big tanky boys, they do very little damage, but they take also very little damage. Dryads, basically the Rangers from the last video, they do a lot of melee damage, but they're not really that tanky. Treemen, they just go in and just absolutely fuck shit up. They are monstrous infantry. The enemy's gonna need a lot to take them down. Treemen are always fun to run. For the high elves now, they have dragons. Wouldn't you fucking know it? Well, we're gonna start with the phoenixes. So phoenixes are basically, I mean, here I'm gonna even put them beside so you can see. Phoenixes are basically the better Great Eagle. They have all this. They have better stats than the Great Eagle. They're about the same speed, but they have a little special ability that can really change the tide. Basically, the moment you start getting Phoenixes, if for some reason you really liked the Great Eagle, you can just keep running Phoenixes. Now, I like to overcompensate, so I do the dragons. There are three variants of dragon, if memory serves. Yep, three variants. And then there should be the star. Yeah, here it is. So these two are the ones you'll probably end up fielding in your like general use army. Big air quotes there. They're fucking dragons. But these guys are a little bit, they're tier 4 as opposed to Star Dragon, which is tier 5, and they're obviously still very powerful dragons. They basically have the difference of a different special attack, and some slightly more variable stats. Uh, this guy breathes. This guy breathes. If you want to pause the video and take a look, that's fine. Just keep in mind, just different special attacks is really all it is. Star Dragon is really where the attention goes. It's just simply the best dragon. It's really hard to say otherwise. It's just the best dragon. Um, if you have the opportunity to recruit any dragon you want, always pick a Star Dragon. They're tier what is this, fucking 5? Yeah, they're tier 5. Tier 4, yeah, just relatively simple conversation. Pick between these or just pick the Star Dragon. More Arcane Phoenixes. Again, another same idea here. They're just slightly variable stats with a different special ability. Just keep in mind what you want to play with, really. And same thing here. Two things I want to talk about. This is called, you see a little purple mark here. This is what you call a Regiment of Renown. This Omen of Assyrian Arcane Phoenix is just, let me see if I actually have the Arcane Phoenix. I'm sure I do, I should. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Here it is, Arcane Phoenix. So, little bigger, bit of a recolor, but ultimately it's the same unit. See, they even have the same special ability. Regiments of Renown, they're typically just the same unit but better. Sometimes they're the same unit with a small twist, but basically just unit but better. That's all I really need to talk about RORs. And finally, the very last unit that I want to talk about with the High Elf roster is the artillery, the Eagle Claw bolt throwers. These things suck cock. They are just awful. I used to use this multi-shot round a lot because I would put them against infantry. Never killed anything. I think I've ended entire missions or battles with 0 kills on the Eagle Claws with that setting. Maybe it's a skill issue, but I was very underwhelmed. Um, the single shot will get them kills, but it's still not exactly a fucking volley cannon from the Empire or anything like that. What these things are good for, and why I have one in every single army, and I would still rate them S despite the fact they kind of suck, they give you the artillery advantage. So you would set up a formation that's defensive in nature. Maybe you're making a box or you're making some wedges or whatever, chevrons. Uh, Formations that will suffer if it needs to move, but is nonetheless extremely sturdy when they're still. These guys will force the enemy, assuming the enemy doesn't have better artillery. These guys will force the enemy to come into your defensive formation, or they just need to sit there and get pelted, which they rarely ever do. So these guys are an enabler. They force the enemy to engage you on your grounds, and I find that way more valuable than any amount of power that honestly most of these units can put out. I will never run without at least a single Eagle Falcon bolt thrower. And there's Lithanar, cool, Dylan Sprouse. And that's it. I hope we get to play soon. Thanks for watching.